Hey guys, Marvin Kid here, back again. How's everybody doing on their end? Hope everybody is well. As always, welcome back to the Opinion Spot. And as you all know, the weekends is when I really start to crank out the opinion spots. I'm starting to really get back in the mode of cranking out the opinion spots on the weekend. And for this episode, this actually is a request. This was actually requested for me by Jason Case. Is actually a longtime subscriber of mine. He's a good guy, always watches my stuff, and I appreciate him always following me and giving his opinions on my vids and things like that. I always love that. He's one of my one of my veteran subscribers. He gave me this a while ago. Actually, put it on my Facebook channel. And he asked me to do a topic on this for the opinion spot. He basically wants me to Disney movies that I would want to see, turn live action. We're starting to see now this insurgent of classic Disney movies becoming live action now. Jungle Book is about to come back out, even though it's not really a Disney movie. Disney did a movie about it, but it's really based off of the, Robert Kinsley book. But still, it's still going to be under Disney. So we know Beauty and the Beast is coming out with Emma Watson, playing Belle. I've heard they're doing a live action Dumbo movie, which I've heard. I think they're still going with that. I don't know how that's gonna be. Even though it's not under Disney, but there is another Peter Pan movie coming out live action where Hugh Jackman plays Captain Hook. But he wants me to do a list. He wanted me to do my list. So honestly, guys, I was up for the challenge. I'm like, okay, I could do this. I'm a huge Disney fan. I think Disney has been a part of our lives no matter what era you're from. There's always been a part of Disney in what era. I'm a child of the 80s, but Disney was flourishing with live animated features back then. And growing up in the 80s, then going into the 90s, still popping out great stuff, and then so on and so on and so forth. So I'm here to kind of do a list for that, gonna give my take on it. So honestly, guys, I actually took out a few of my Disney movies that I have in my collection, and I'm gonna get one right out the bat because it's actually happening, basically, and I'm gonna show it to you right now. But I'm so glad because I excluded this off my list because I found out that it's actually happening. They're gonna do a live action version of this movie. And it's none other than The Sword and the Stone. This is one of my favorite Disney movies right here, Sword of the Stone. I love this movie. Always loved it because I'm a big King Arthur fan. I've loved the knights, Merlin, Camelot, things like that. And I found out that they're actually doing a live action version of this. Disney is planning to do that. First seeing this movie, I just thought it was just a great, a great Disney movie just taking place in the Dark Ages or medieval times. With this young man, and he runs into the sorcerer Merlin. Never really putting two and two together that's the same Merlin that is from the King Arthur lore, and then not even putting two and two together that the young boy Wart was Arthur until at the end of the movie where he pulls Excalibur from the stone, and they ask him, "What's the lad's name?" You remember, what's the lad's name? And his stepfather or whatever says, Walt. No, I mean Arthur. And it was just like, whoa, that's King Arthur, So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Sword of the Stone. How would they will they how much will be different from what they did with the animated feature. I mean, we probably won't see Merlin turning young Arthur into squirrels and fish and birds and things like that, but we probably still see an essence of what this was. The first movie. This movie came out, I believe, in the 1960s or 70s. Correct me on that one, guys. But this is one of my favorites. I love this. But so that's going to be excluded. Now we've seen live action of the 101 Dalmatians. We've seen even Maleficent's got a movie, a solo movie. I still have not seen that movie yet. But I hear Miss Angelina Jolie did a bang up job playing the character. Just like I'll say this, as much as I wasn't a real big fan of the live action version of this movie, 101 Dalmatians, I thought Glenn Close nailed it as Cruella de Vil. I thought she nailed it. I was like, yeah, that's kind of how, and I've always thought Cruella de Vil is by far one of the most devious Disney villains it is. I mean, just hearing the stuff that this woman said she wanted to do to these little Dalmatian puppies, how to kill them, it was just like eye opener, especially at the time of this movie when this first came out. This came out, what, 1970s, once again, and you hearing how she said, bashed them over the head, drown them, you got chloroform. I'm like, are you hearing this woman? Like, damn. So, stuff like that, you just was like, this woman, this is crazy. But for live action wise, there are a few movies that I would love to see done live action. So let's go. I give maybe I'll say maybe I'll give at least a good even number of maybe 8. Okay? So we're gonna go from the count. We're gonna go backwards on this. So for number 8, one of the movies I think I wouldn't mind seeing live action. I think with the technology today, it probably could be done and be plausible and done beautifully. And I don't have it in my collection. I've seen it many times. Is The Little Mermaid. I think, honestly, The Little Mermaid could be turned live action and done well. And done with the essence of what the animated feature did. I remember going to the movies. My cousin, a few of my cousins, and myself. I have more female cousins than male cousins. So, and my cousins and their father, my uncle, my father's brother, took us to see The Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid came out in 1988. I was 7 years old when it first came out, and instantly I enjoyed the movie. I never looked at The Little Mermaid as a girly movie. I just enjoyed it. Flounder was my dude. Sebastian, the music was in there, was great, and you really enjoyed the chemistry between Ariel and Eric. You love the scene, you love the music of this coming of age story of this young mermaid who feels that she's trapped in this society, in a sense that they're saying, stay away from the human world. It almost had a little bit of a vibe of the comics today in terms of, the Atlanteans of Aquaman and even the Atlanteans in the Marvel Universe. They're really kind of against the human world, and but she is defiant of trying to learn everything she can about the human world, and I love that. I thought it was great. Her father tried in telling her, "You stay away from them. You can't fall in love with a human." And it's just, and she defied it. And then comes along the sea witch Ursula, played by Bette Midler. I believe she did the voice, and she literally Ariel basically sells her soul to the devil in a sense, just to have legs, just to be able to go to the surface world and meet the charming uh, prince that she fell in love with, and I thought it was great. So I really think a live action version of that, the technology today could really make a mermaid look even more realistic than what we've seen in the past with mermaid movies, live action mermaid movies back in the late '80s and things like that, and even to a degree what we saw in the '90s. I mean, look at the mermaids that were in Hook, classic Robin Williams, God rest his soul, was in Hook. They look great, but still, I think now you can get a better as to who could play a young Ariel. That's a little tough for me, and who could play Eric and who could play King Triton and Ursula. All that would be kind of tough, but definitely, Little Mermaid makes one of my lists for live action version of a Disney movie. Next on my list would number 7 on my list would actually be none other than let's see. Aha. Would probably be Hercules. Now, we've seen Hercules. Now, once again, Hercules is more of a public domain character. He can be used anywhere. True. Tarzan is the same thing. We've seen, Tarzan is a public domain character. But I would love to see Disney take a crack at bringing their live action version of their version of their animated feature of the demigod Hercules to life differently than what we've seen previously with Hercules movies. I mean, some of these Hercules movies now have been, somewhat darker and have been a different term. The last movie I saw I've seen both of the latest Hercules movies, the Legend of Hercules, which to me just kind of, as a Hercules fan, was just like, oh. And then I seen the Hercules movie that was based off the graphic novel that The Rock did, and I actually enjoyed that one. I thought it was a different take, but very much open-minded of looking at Hercules in a different light. And I thought Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did a good job, a believable job of portraying the demigod Hercules. But as for Disney's version, I would love to see them do this. With me being a huge Greek mythology buff and just mythology buff period, I would love to see them bring this Hercules with Pegasus and Philoctetes and how they would pull off Hades, their version of Hades live action, and the rest of the gods and things like that. I think would be really good. Now, as to who could play Hercules, once again, the casting, I would really have to do that's a story, a vid for another time, like for fan casting. But I would love to see them do Hercules as a live action, even though, once again, we've seen Hercules, but the Disney version of Hercules. It's like, to my opinion, it's like, why can't they do that? I mean, because if they're going to do a live version of Dumbo, which I love Dumbo to the day I die. I will always love that movie. Very sad movie. A movie that still to this day will make me cry. Still, I don't get, like, how are they going to do live action of a Dumbo movie? It's going to be really weird to see them take a live action version of a live action elephant baby elephant and have it fly and things like that with big ears. It's just, unless they're really going to CGI that bad boy, I can't see it's just weird. Um, so another movie, what was that? Seven, number six. Let's go with number six. Um, Number six on my list, I think, could work well as a live action movie. In my opinion, Lilo and Stitch. I think Lilo and Stitch could be a good combination of, you know, uh, kind of in a sense a little bit of what Guardians of the Galaxy was for people who didn't know the Guardians of the Galaxy, never read any of the comics or anything like that. Here is a little Hawaiian girl who is kind of an outsider. She's kind of an outsider to the rest of her misfit friends or so. Meryl, she's like really like she's more of like the girl, the stuck up, you know like head cheerleader, and she has her little entourage, and they do whatever she wants. So if she says, "Little, you're a fool," and things like that, and what's their excuse? Yeah, they'll just, and then she enters this space, this extraterrestrial from outer space who is kind of like a miscreant. He's kind of, in a sense, plays off like he's a dangerous criminal of the galaxy. And then comes the family oriented piece to the feature of having this very powerful alien who is more about wrecking and causing havoc. Now he finds himself in a family. He's loved. He's being loved. And you can pull that off. He now finds this. He has a family, and he's no longer me another Kuska, and things like that. And sorry, yeah, I can do Stitch's voice pretty well, guys. And he has an ohana, which means family. This is my family, Stitch love Lilo, and things like that. So I think a Lilo and Stitch live action film would work too, because I enjoyed Lilo and Stitch. It got very popular. It actually turned into an animated series. So when we got to see more of his Stitch's cousin, and things like that, and there was all these different versions of him. He was like 600. There were like 600 different versions of. He had over 600 cousins. He was like 626. It was so much fun. But yeah, Lilo and Stitch is another one I would love to see done live action. I really would. So yeah, a Lilo and Stitch live action movie would really be good. Next on my list, which definitely, which was that? That was six. Number five. So we're in my top five now. And the next one for me, because as you all know, guys, I'm half Native American myself, so this plays a big part with me. Pocahontas. Pocahontas, definitely. I'm a big advocate of putting Native American in the spotlight, but not in the wrong spotlight. More into the spotlight of showcasing that they're not savages. They're not the bad guys. Forget what you've seen in those classic Western movies. Like it's always the Native Americans are the bad guys and things like that. No, showcase Pocahontas, the strong female character who defied the odds of, how can I put it, almost abolishing a war, almost starting a war with the what was what tribe was Pocahontas? I think she was the Pocoan, or I don't think she was the Mohawk. I don't think she was Mohawk, but uh, you have her, and then you have John Smith and the rest of his merchants or explorers. John Smith meets this very courageous, beautiful, woman, and she gets his eyes are open to a different side of the world. And if you watch the first movie, which is the best anyway, the first anime movie, the first song, you know, and you listen to the lyrics of Pocahontas singing, where that line really touches a lot, especially where she says, you think you basically can claim any land that you land on. It's just like you land on any land, you think, okay, it's our land now, not knowing if anybody else inhabits. And that really is a big sign of pretty much what the Native Americans, had to deal with, in a sense of, kicked out of their own land by European explorers. Think, oh yeah, we own this land, and having sicknesses that they never dealt with come, and things like that. And it's some tough stuff, but Pocahontas is definitely my top 5 movies that should be turned live action, because she is just a great character to begin with. And we've seen live action movies before of John Smith and Pocahontas before, but on the Disney side of it, I think it could work. It could. So let's that was number 5. Let's go number 4. Number 4 on my list is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yes, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Another movie I love. A time where, especially in terms of anyone who has, who comes from maybe the background of gypsies and things like that. At that time and age, gypsies were very much looked at as outcasts on society. They are looked at almost as if, almost in terms of they practiced black magic. It's almost being like looked at as being a witch in the 16th century, things like that. And in this movie, we also have a baby whose mother and father were gypsies, who he was raised, and he had a little bit of a deformity. He was born that way. He had a hunchback, and he looked a little differently, but he was brought up and stayed in the famous Cathedral of Notre Dame. At that time, the whole sanctuary. We don't see that anymore these days, especially like in a sense, I think it's unquestionable, like you can do that nowadays anyway. Like a criminal could go into, or just somebody who is in need, who is being chased by, could go into, bang on a church and claim sanctuary, and it would be like a threshold. You can't come in there and do bodily harm, even though I still believe it could be done, but it's the modern age and stuff like that. But just the tale of, here is a man who's been kind of raised and told differently by this evil man, what was his name, Lothoth? Basically telling him, like, the world is a dark place. And to a degree it is, but you will not be looked at as being, you will be looked at as an outcast, a freak, things like that. And to a degree, he had some truth that the world can be a dark place. This world can be dark. But however, there are people in this world that that feel that even though there is this darkness, you have to have hope and believe in that hope can conquer that darker side of this world. Like myself, feeling that way too, and understanding that we're different, but we have differences, but there is also a part of us that, even though he looks differently, he looks kind of like somebody, like, in a sense, in some people's eyes, he's hideous, he's ugly, he's a monster, but he has a heart of gold. Here is a man, Quasimodo. Here is a man, yes, I say man, who has a loving heart. He wants to not believe in what he's being told, and then comes Esmeralda into his life and shows him that there are people out there that are going to look at you through the different set of eyes, and just seeing what some people see you as. And I think that is a good way of showcasing for Disney to really get behind. And I think a director that can probably pull that off pretty well is, I believe, I would say Robert Zemeckis could pull that off, because look at what he did with the Forrest Gump. I look at Quasimodo and Forrest Gump almost in the same kind of picture of, here's Forrest Gump, one of my all-time favorite movies. He's looked at because he's a little slow, so he's looked at as an outcast, and look at what he did in the world. He changed people's, in a sense. People entered his life, entered his world, and they became different people because of that. Quasimodo could be the same way, but as for who could play Quasimodo would be hard, but I would think you would find somebody that could pull it off. As for the villain, there are so many people I think could pull that off, that could pull it off well. One I think could pull off Gary Oldman. I think Gary Oldman could pull that off so well. Gary Oldman, I think he is one of those character-driven actors. He's one of my actors. Any movie he's in, he brings his A game, no matter how the performance of the movie is. When you see Gary Oldman, he brings it. Every movie he is in, he brings it, and that's why he's one of my favorite actors. He brings it for every movie, and I think he could pull that off. Esmeralda, I really want an actress that can capture the essence of her, and all the others, other supporting casts be really easy too. But yeah, that would definitely be my number 4. Is The Hunchback of Notre Dame, definitely. So let's move on. The next on my list is actually another. I'm looking at my list right here, guys. That's what I saw on my computer. The next, number 3 on my list, is actually a movie that is, despite the fact that the actor who played one of the characters is no longer here, I still would like to see a live action movie of it. And that's Aladdin. Now, why Aladdin? Why Aladdin? I love Aladdin. Aladdin is probably one of the few Disney movies in terms of sequels that I actually enjoy, because I'm not a big fan of any of the Disney sequels. The directed DVD, Blu-ray movies. But honestly, I enjoyed Return of Jafar, and I enjoyed Aladdin, the third Aladdin movie, where we got to see his father and things like that. but an Aladdin movie I would love to see done too, because Aladdin is a timeless classic movie. Once again, here's another character is that is more of a public domain character. You know, he's not a he's not just a Disney owned character, but he's a public domain character. The character has been in the Thousand Tales, Alibaba and the Thousand Tales, things like that. And in the original Aladdin, some of the characters, uh, here's my Aladdin movie, like Abu. In the original story, Abu was a man. He was not a little monkey. There was no Jafar. There was no Princess Jafar. If I remember, I haven't read the original story in a long time, but Abu was a man, was Aladdin's partner, and but the more live action uh, Disney version of it, I would love to see. I think Sir Ben Kingsley could probably pull off Jafar. I think he could do such a good job. As for Aladdin, that's a little hard for me because I would really want to have somebody that is almost of Middle Eastern descent. I want to keep it authentic to of Middle Eastern descent. Of that caliber. Same thing with you know with Jasmine and people like that. And as for Genie, see, that's where it really is why it really wasn't going to go on my list, but then I changed. I was like, okay, I'll put it there. But the Genie, it would be really hard, even if they CGI the hell out of Genie's more of a CGI character and not a male character, actor just looking like a genie, but more of a CGI character. I still cannot not see any Genie not being played by the great Robin Williams. You know, um, Robin Williams to me was Genie. He will always be Genie. Excuse me. He will always be Genie to me, and I've heard them talk about they're actually thinking about making a live action prequel to Aladdin called Genies, where we get to see Genie before he met Aladdin or something like that. And to a degree, I'm like, I don't know about that, but it would be interesting because let's face it, Genie is, a very old character. I mean, Genie, he's been around for centuries, years, millennia, and he's always said things about his other masters. He's even said it, you're a lot smaller. Remember the line in the first Aladdin movie, you're a lot smarter than my last master. So it almost in a sense like, Disney's probably looking at it from that degree. It's like, okay, hey, you know, we can play off that. We could get a story going. Like, who was Genie's master before Al? And what happened to him? Why was Genie left in the Cave of Wonders and everything like that? So, to some degree, I can understand where they're coming from, but I would want to see more of a live action Aladdin movie where we get to see Aladdin go in the Cave of Wonders for Jafar dressed up in this sick looking creepy Alfred costume. I mean, let's face it, even when Jafar was disguised as that creepy man, that was creepy as hell to me. Like, if I was Aladdin and I was in a jail and I saw a guy like that and he comes over, hey boy, I was like, get the hell away from me, like, and things like that. It was just creepy, but a live action Aladdin movie would be great, indeed, very much indeed. So that was number 3. Number 2 on my list, believe it or not, is none other than Oliver and Company, actually. Why Oliver and Company? Oliver and Company, to a degree, I love that movie. Uh, Great soundtrack. Oliver, Dodger, all those characters are great. Good storytelling too. And one thing about it was it takes place in my neck of the woods, New York. Yeah, but if they could do a live action 101 Dalmatian movie, why not a live action Oliver and Company? Just saying. It'd be really interesting to see, how they could pull that off. I mean, to in some way, the classic movie Homeward Bound was kind of a little bit of a what I could depict of a live action uh, Oliver and Company movie. So yeah, to some degree, yeah. There you go. But yeah, that's that's just one. And number one on my list, and this is a movie. God damn, I would love to finally see done live action. Is, you probably guessed it, Mulan. Oh my God, Mulan. You talk about another strong female centered character, Mulan. Gotta remember, let's not forget, guys. In the first movie, love the movie, love that first movie, love it. Probably one of the best amped up song, in my opinion, a manly song. That song, uh, where you see them training, against them, to, for preparation for the Hun. Um, is just a classic song, and it's so manly, but it gets you pumped up. We are man, you must be stripped as a coursing river. I'm like, oh my God. You listen to that song and it gets you amped. No matter how many times I watch that movie, once that scene and that song starts playing, I get amped, and you almost want to pound your chest like, oh yeah, getting in the zone, and just like, oh yeah, we're gonna take it to the Huns and stuff like that, and it's just great. And Mulan, voiced by Ming Na, who plays Agent May now on Agents of Shield, was great. You had, to this day, it's still funny to know that Eddie Murphy voiced Mushu, and it's just like it was so much fun. But you had a very, very great cast of Asian actors and actresses who voiced that those characters. Almost, I would say, maybe I want to say 99% of the cast were Asian Americans, Asian descent, but excluding uh, Eddie Murphy. But you had B.D. Wong, you had Pat Morita in there, actors like that were in that movie. But a live action version, mm, I would love to see it done. I would love to see Mulan done, and who I would get to play Mulan. Uh, Honestly, I would actually legitimately go with. There's a couple of actresses I would go with to play Mulan. Jamie Chung would be up there. Uh, the actress who played Knives in Scott Pilgrim, I think she could pull off Mulan. Uh, who else I could see? Even the actress man, I'm forgetting her name now. It was off the top of my tongue. I just had it, but I lost it. But who plays Kira in Teen Wolf, could pull off Mulan. You know, but Mulan is my number one choice for a Disney movie that should get a live action treatment. Um, oh, man, why Disney won't do it, I have no idea. Uh, well, part of me does have an idea. There's one side of me, but that side I'm trying to stay away from, keep them out of there. But Yeah, there's a part of me that believes a reason why, yeah, they won't do it. But I would love to see it done. So yeah, those are top. Those are 8 movies I would love to see. Honorable mentions. You probably would wonder, hey Chris, why not Tarzan? You going on about like you love the Tarzan movie. Once again, I love Tarzan, and yes, we've seen Tarzan done plenty of times. And he is a public domain character. He's not owned by anybody. Anybody can use the license of Tarzan. But it would probably be pretty hard to do without CGIing a lot of the, especially the gorillas. And to me, it would probably be on the same aspect of how they did, the Planet of the Apes for the gorillas and things like that for that movie. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but yeah, still. Another honorable mention is the Black Cauldron is another one. Treasure Planet is up there, which is just Treasure Island, just done space, Space Odyssey wise. Uh, Another one is to a degree. Uh, who else I can see? Trying to think what else I can see. Oh, another honorable mention will be Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Um, Also, I'll also throw in there maybe the Emperor's New Groove, you know. But of course, the biggest, uh, the the biggest, biggest honorable mention would be a live action version of this bad boy, The Incredibles. I would love to see how they would pull off The Incredibles live action. Who they would get to play the family um, of Mr. Incredible, Mrs. Incredible, Dash, Violet, Jack. All those characters, Frozone, all those characters, how they would pull that off. Because then it would be literally like, once again, in a sense, it would be like, to me, it would be almost like a suck it to Fox. Uh, like almost Deadpool, like, suck it. Once again, we did a better job portraying the Fantastic Four than you did, once again. Still to this day, this is probably the best Fantastic Four movie that doesn't even involve the FF till this day. And so that's why it gets an honorable mention. Even though I think it's more of, we still look at more as a Pixar movie and not Disney, but it's still under Disney. And I think Incredibles is an honorable mention to the 10th power of a live action version, because I would love to see how they do this, how they would do these characters, who would they get, what actors and actresses they would get to play these characters, and Syndrome and all of them, who would they get, and uh, Elda and all of them. It'd just be so much fun to see. And even still, I would have Brad Bird direct the live action version of it. But yeah, so there you have it, guys. And this was a fucking long video. But hey, who cares? I hope you enjoyed it. I don't mind doing opinion spots where they get in depth and they get longer, and I hope you enjoyed it. But as always, this is Mom Vernon Kid saying peace, one love, stay tuned, keep it real as always. And if you have any requests for the opinion spot, feel free to drop me a line. And just like how my good friend Kat would always say, if I respond to you, look for it. Just know that, he's gonna do it. He will do it. That's how and that's the same thing with me. If I respond to it and I say, ooh, okay, interesting, just know, when I say interesting, that means he's gonna do it. But other than that, thank you for watching. As always, guys, Take care. And this is the Opinion Spot, where your opinion matters. Y'all take care, guys.